Knowledge evolves with time, so does the way we work and manage people. Welcome to Aksharaha, an initiative by Anveshan Educational Trust. In this episode, we explore the evolution of organizational behavior, how management thinking shifted from controlling work to understanding people. Organizational behavior explains how people behave in organization. So what does that really mean when we say it out loud? It studies how employees think, feel, and act at work. To understand today's workplace practices, we must first understand the problem organizations faced in the past because modern systems did not appear overnight. They evolved in response to real challenges. Each management theory emerged as a response to a specific limitation of the previous one. In other words, every idea was born because something earlier stopped working. New theories filled the gaps old ones left behind. In the early industrial period, organizations faced one dominant challenge productivity. But productivity is often misunderstood. It simply means producing more output using the same or fewer resources. Factories needed higher output, faster production, and lower costs. Efficiency became survival, not strategy. To solve this, Frederick Taylor introduced scientific management. He approached work very differently from before. Taylor believed work could be studied scientifically. That sounds complex, but the idea was simple. Work could be analyzed step by step like a controlled experiment. Jobs were broken into small tasks, timed and standardized, which means work stopped being flexible. Every task was measured and performed the same way every time. Workers were selected and trained for efficiency, not for creativity or growth. People were chosen based on physical ability and speed. Financial incentives were used to increase output. The logic was straightforward. More work meant more pay. This approach significantly improved productivity. From a numbers perspective, it worked. However, it also created repetitive job and ignored human needs. And this is where the problem began. Workers repeated tasks endlessly with no attention to motivation or emotions. As dissatisfaction and fatigue increased, managers realized productivity alone was not enough. Efficiency had limits. The next challenge was coordination. Because managing individuals is different from managing system. Coordination means ensuring everyone works together smoothly. As organizations grew larger, controlling work through individual efficiency became difficult. Scale changed everything. Managers needed clarity in authority, responsibility, and decision making. Someone had to define who does what and who answers to whom. This meant clear roles and accountability. This need led to administrative theory. The focus shift from workers to management. Henry Fayol focused on what managers do. Instead of shop floors, he studied leadership roles. He identified planning, organizing, coordinating, commanding, and controlling as core functions. These were not abstract ideas, they were the basic activities required to run an organization. His principles helped organizations operate systematically. Work became predictable instead of chaotic. Around the same time, Max Weber addressed consistency and fairness. He noticed another problem unequal treatment. He proposed bureaucracy based on hierarchy, rules, and formal authority. That may sound rigid, but it had a purpose. Hierarchy created levels of responsibility, and authority came from position, not personality. These ideas helped large organizations function smoothly, especially governments and large corporations. But over time, excessive rules reduced flexibility. Rules began to replace judgment. Employees followed procedure but stopped engaging creatively. They compiled but they did not contribute. This raised an important question, one that managers could not ignore. Why do people comply but not commit? Why do they follow instruction but lack enthusiasm or loyalty? To answer this question, thinkers began observing how people actually behave at work, not how theory assumed they behaved. Mary Parker Follett argued that organizations are social systems. She looked beyond charts and policies. Workplaces are shaped by human relationships. She emphasized cooperation instead of control. That means power worked better when it was shared. Chester Bernard highlighted communication and informal groups because not all influences come from job titles. Unofficial friendships and network also affect work. They showed that relationships influence performance. People do not work in isolation, right? Yet, these ideas remain largely theoretical. Managers wanted proof, not philosophy. They wanted measurable evidence, something they could see and trust. They wanted proof that human factors affected productivity. And that proof emerged through the Hawthorne experiments almost by accident. Researchers initially studied physical working conditions, things like lighting and workplace design. Surprisingly, productivity increased regardless of lighting changes, which made no logical sense at first. The real cause was attention, not the environment, but the experience. Workers performed better because they were being observed. Workers felt noticed and valued, and that feeling mattered. Informal group norms also influenced output. Groups created their own rules about effort and pace. This marked as a turning point in management thinking. People were no longer seen as machines. Organization could no longer ignore social and psychological factors because emotions, relationships, and motivation became invisible forces. However, attention alone could not explain motivation fully. Something deeper was still missing. Manager began asking deeper question. What drives people to work beyond supervision? What keeps them motivated when no one is watching? This led to new human relations approach, a more psychological understanding of work. Abraham Maslow explained motivation through hierarchy of needs. He organized human needs in levels from basic survival to personal growth. Once basic needs are satisfied, individuals seek belonging, esteem, and self fulfillment. People want connection, respect, meaning. Douglas McGregor expanded this understanding. He focused on managerial assumptions. Theory X assumed workers dislike work and need control. Theory Y assumed workers are capable of self direction. These assumptions shaped leadership styles. How managers think determines how they lead. As organizations experimented with empowerment, motivation improved. Responsibility increased engagement. But managers soon realized another limitation. Motivation was not universal. Motivation strategies work differently across different individuals and situations. What inspires one employee may fail another. This realization led to behavioral science approach, a more analytical direction. Researchers began studying behavior using scientific methods. Data replaced intuition. Leadership effectiveness was found to depend on context. That means a leader's success depends on the situation. Job design influenced satisfaction and performance. It means how work is structured shapes how people feel and perform. Motivation was not universal. There was no single best way to manage people. Management became evidence based and situational. Decisions depend on data and context. Today's organizations reflect lessons from all these stages. Efficiency is still important, structure still provides clarity. Human needs and social relationships are equally critical. Modern organizational behavior integrates these perspectives. It blends system, structure, and human understanding. Managers select and adapt theories based on context because flexibility defines effectiveness today. The evolution of organizational behavior shows a clear pattern. Each theory solved a problem, each solution revealed a new limitation, and each limitation led to new way of thinking. This continuous learning defines modern management practices. Thank you for learning with Aksharaha.